At the end of this video, I'll tell you which model of all the ones out there I would get of these, and it might surprise you because you think it would be the sport model of the V6, which I drove last and will link to, that I loved, but it's actually not. So I reviewed a little bit more in depth the Sport V6 version of this car. This one will talk mostly about if you're torn between the hybrid or a non-hybrid model, you know, advantages the hybrid might have. You might want to choose that. And then also the difference a lot between this, which is the luxury model, and then the sport model, if you're kind of torn in between which one you should get. Engine-wise, if you're between the 4-cylinder and the hybrid, if you care about like fuel efficiency, and you know the price difference, you know you're going to keep the car a long time where the price difference would pay for it. The hybrid gives you every bit of performance with better MPG. I think it's a little smoother, frankly, and of course you get the regenerative braking, so there's less maintenance costs and just all sorts of advantage to the hybrid. You know, if it's within your budget, I would personally go for the hybrid over the 4-cylinder. It's not a lot better performance-wise, but you know there's all the other advantages you know, that come with a hybrid, including like an EV mode for around town, the regenerative braking, which has less maintenance. So let me start talking about kind of the different models of this car, because there are a lot of them and it can be kind of confusing. There's a 4-cylinder, a hybrid, and then a V6. Which I've reviewed the hybrid and V6, and then reviewed last year the 4-cylinder and driven the 4-cylinder in this generation. So what's the difference? The S, as you may have guessed, stands for sport. So those have a sport tuned suspension, which is kind of really worth it. It's not that much more money, and on some models it's actually equal, and you do get a much better handling and performing car. Obviously, if that was the only thing and it sacrificed ride quality, it's like, of course I would go for the L model. L, I believe, is supposed to mean like luxury. However, the interior is not that much nicer on the L model, and the ride qualities, I can barely notice a difference on the S. If anything, I kind of like the way the S handles bumps better, but you know, that's probably subjective. The L is, you know, definitely on big bumps though. The L probably is a little softer. You're just commuting all day, you know, in straight lines, stoplights, highway type driving, where, you know, the S model might not make sense to you. You know, obviously you'd have to drive both, but it is a pretty big difference. I was surprised by how much I loved on a curvy road the way the S drove, and then the L was definitely soft in the class, to the point where I think most others, including like the Civic, definitely the Mazda, and even you know, the Kia Hyundai products would, you know, handle a little better. Needless to say, this white is actually a pretty white. I don't think it necessarily with this plastic here is maybe my favorite color personally. I do like the rims on this one. I think they are the bigger rims. They look good as well. It's a very nice looking car. You see a bit of Ford Fusion. It's just smooth and really nice on the side there. I quite like that as well. And then coming around the back here, I think that's one of my favorite features of this car. It just blends the futuristic look, but also being smooth. I saw, you know, 2 generations Camrys next to a new one on the road, and this one just really stands out, and it's striking. I think the back is actually prettier and even less controversial than the front. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. You get that fancy hybrid badge there to let everyone know. And as you can hear, that's one nice thing about this. It's totally silent right now because it's entered EV mode. The heat's still running, the car is still on. That is really cool that you're not really burning any gas. Into the interior, as I alluded to earlier, the luxury model doesn't really have a nicer interior per se than the sport model. One difference here on the hybrid specifically is this. So anywhere in the first half of Eco, you can be in EV mode. Obviously charging is if you're coasting or braking and you're charging the battery. Second half of Eco is both kind of working in tandem, and then all of the power is when you're really gunning it and you're getting the battery and the full RPM of the engine. This kind of becomes an RPM meter there. And bonus on the hybrid as well is very quickly that it has this eco guidance mode here, which is kind of cool. It's like a Prius. You get a little, I quite like the center stack of this car. You know, these buttons you don't press all that often. They're a little bit hard to kind of get to if you're not looking, but they work well. I when you go into info here on the hybrid, I believe this is hybrid specific, this eco mode. This part definitely is. As you can see, our battery is fully charged, and then you can see if you're using the battery to power the electric motor or the engine, or both, as sometimes will be. You can also get this trip information guide. How much the regenerative braking actually works. Just driving a few miles, it's 30 watt hours of regenerative energy. Again, and that's just a very short, quick drive. You can option wireless charging as well as, you know, plugging in for audio as well, which is really nice. And then, like I said, there is this, you know, bit of wood looking trim over here. You get that on the sport model, or you can option, at least I think, on the sport model as well. And I don't really talk about stereos much, but this JBL one, if you can order, it's one of the better standard stereos if you like listening to music, which is a huge change because last gen's JBL system on the Camry was kind of underwhelming to me. Coming down here, you get the nice shifter, you get all your drive mode buttons. The hybrid does have that EV mode, which is really cool around town, or if you're just driving around in your neighborhood and or leaving early, don't want to wake people. Hold function as well is kind of nice if you're doing in-town driving. You just press the brake down hard and it, you know, holds the car, and you don't have to put it in park at long lights. The only other cars I've driven, like I saw this first in a Mercedes, and then it's here. Another nice come down feature that's from Lexus is it can detect if the passenger seat is occupied and therefore just turn off that climate control. I thought this was out, or this one didn't really have dual zone at first, but then I realized it was just that feature working. So that's really, really kind of a nice feature as well. Nice, pretty big console here, really deep. You know, and 2 extra power ports, so you could, you know, leave a iPad or something else charging in there if you wanted. I think the seat design on the luxury model is also a little different. It looks nice as well. It has kind of the seam in here, which is really cool. I don't think the sport or luxury personally, you know, I don't give either one an advantage. Right, so driving of the hybrid's pretty much exactly the same as the 4-cylinder, which is a good thing. That's a isoler. It's really, really cold out. That's why I'm wearing this big jacket. Whenever a hybrid, you know, handles as well as its, you know, non-hybrid counterpart, that's a good thing, because hybrid technology, I think, should be pretty much invisible. It's just like driving an electric car should more or less, minus the noise, feel like driving a regular car. I think that's where like Tesla and a few other successful electric cars have been doing well. The regenerative braking is quite nice and quite good. It's, you know, it's one of the newer systems Toyota has, and they've been at this quite a while now making hybrids. So definitely did enjoy this hybrid. Acceleration is quick. Definitely feels like it's up there with the 4-cylinder. Never really left me wanting more, except maybe a little bit on the highway when I was trying to pass, you know, in like a short period of time, if I was going to lose the lane or something like that. The steering, when you put it in sport mode, it's very similar to the sport mode on the sport package one and on the non-hybrids there. So it did its job, and it was, you know, admirable at that. So here I am starting out in EV mode. So you might hear, minus the climate control, the heat's running. Totally silent. It's like an electric car basically, and it'll get you up to a pretty high speed. We're already up to 20. I think it'll go maybe up to about 30. Let's kick in, and then you'll get to hear the real motor kicking in as well. Like, you can actually hear the tires and suspension. It's all you can hear at this point. It's really great. Now here, I don't know if you heard that, very subtly. You don't really even feel it. You just kind of hear the regular motor kicking in. Pretty quick when you put your foot down. It's not slow. I'd have to think it's a little bit faster than the 4-cylinder model. Even if the numbers don't indicate that, it does feel quicker than the 4-cylinder when you're in sport mode and when you're, you know, getting the full engine and the battery. Even run EV in sport mode, so you get the better steering, and as long as you don't gun it too much on the accelerator, it'll still stay. As you see now, we're in sport mode, totally silently in electric mode. That is a really, really cool feature. Unless you really get on it, you can't even really hear, and you definitely can't feel when the regular engine kicks in. Toyota's done a great job on that. I mean, they've been working on that in the Prius for a long time. and this is every bit as good, if not better. So they're both quiet and smooth. The even, you know, V4 hybrid, V6, all three are very comfortable. Like I said earlier, I don't think there is a huge detriment to getting the S models or the sport package models on there in terms of ride quality, and there's such a big handling increase. So now comes what you guys have probably been waiting for. Which one of these would I buy with my own money? As you probably sensed a bit throughout this video, I really did think that the hybrid, although more expensive, if you're going to keep it the long term and get all those extra fuel costs, a little bit lower maintenance costs, you know, and just be able to take care of that regenerative braking in the EV mode, I would probably get the sport model hybrid, whether it be SE or XSE. You know, that's depending on your budget as well. But yeah, I just really liked the hybrid, and thought you didn't really need the V6 in this car for, you know, what most people are doing. This is definitely one of the softer cars out there if you get the LE models. That may not be a bad thing, but if, you know, if you're just looking for something fun, spirited, that you can kind of throw around the corner, definitely get the SE model. Should you get this or a Prius if you're looking for a hybrid car? I think I'd get this over the Prius. It gives you more space. I feel like it's a little nicer inside. It gives you more luxury. And it gives you, I feel like, more utility overall as well. Obviously the MPGs, I don't believe, are quite up there with the Prius, but it is a bigger, heavier, more substantial car. I just reviewed the new Prius and liked it quite a lot, so it kind of surprised me to say that. But this car is just so good. It has everything good the Prius has. So that's kind of how I feel about that. And then the V6, I feel like the V6 is kind of too much power for this class of car. I know that sounds weird in a front-wheel drive architecture. It's really fun, and it's really quite quick. But given the price point of it, I would probably get the XSE hybrid. Well, next time, my speedy racers, drive on.